Hello guys, today is another episode of your sandbox project and I'll show you how to make extension to our world map feature, and this extension is the pin system. It's the first step for creating the world maps legend. So, if you haven't seen my video about world map and minimap, you should see it. I know it's long, it's 2.5 hours, but without it you can't get the result that you saw on the demo. In case you have your own system, or if you want to know how to create the pin system in general, I'll show you the most like I'll show you those functions, those functionality that is highly needed to have, and it's the projection of the map's position to the world position. So I'll show you how you can project the position of your mouse on the particular widget and how it should be translated to the world coordinate system. Also, I'll tell you main concepts, how to go from having nothing and to achieving the world mapping system. So let's just start with the main idea. If you have the widget like this one, this is the world map, and as you can see it's aligned on the center, so 0.5, 0.5 on both axes, and it has the constant size. By default, if you add another widget, let it be border, you can see that its position here according to its anchor, this one, is 0, 0. But in my case, if you have the widget located here, the anchor is in the center, you can see that the position for this particular widget right now is minus x minus y. And if you go here, it's positive x, positive y. So that's how this layout works. Next, if you take a look at the top view on the map, you can see that you have x on your horizon and y on your vertical axis. So if we add, for instance, an empty actor here, you can see that it also has minus minus here and positive positive here. So left corner is minus or negative, right bottom corner is positive 1. But when you launch the game, you can see that x-axis is for our forward vector and y-axis is for our right vector. So when we approach the game, you can see that we are actually moving on this direction. So the map that is projected to the widget should also be properly rotated or properly aligned. So for this, we need to gather the information from our mouse and project it correctly. You can also see that I have more than one widget here, and we need to register the event only of a particular widget. So you can have a lot of them, but only one should trigger the event. So for this, I have this logic. Event on mouse enter, event on mouse leave. Then I check whether my world map is hovered. If it's so, I add another Boolean variable. It's called focus map, and set is to be true. If my mouse isn't covered, my world map, I select focus map to be false. Next, you need to look for functions override, and there you can find the function called on mouse button down. So you need to override it. Once you've done it, you can open it, and by default you will see something like this. And there is no logic inside here. This particular event should be overwritten, so you can actually trigger the event from the mouse that should be registered, and inside this particular function you need to implement the function that will project its position to world system coordinates. So here I check whether my mouse event here, and I assign it to be on the left mouse button, is down. If it's so, and if another condition also true, focus map, then it means that I'm hovering the world map widget and I'm pressing my mouse button. And if it's so, I call the function that I created. It's called add location pin, and return handled, or if the conditions are false, unhandled state. For the add location pin here, I have this logic. So basically what you need is to trace down from your mouse position like it can be line trace, but I use the sphere trace with the particular radius. So the usage of this logic is very obvious. When I have my marker or my pin located on the map, when I press or select nearly the same location and I use sphere trace to check whether I am hovering the marker, so if it's the same object type, I need to unregister it and delete it. So as you saw also from the demo, when I put markers on the map, they are working properly, and when I select the same position on the previous markers, they are deleted. Next, all I do also here, I just spawn the actor, it's my marker, and I have the function implemented in my marker blueprint actor. As you can see, if the cast from the hit actor goes and the marker type is location, I'll explain it later for the whole feature. Now I'm explaining only the idea, how it works. And this fires the event that destroys my marker. If the cast fails, it means that I don't see any same object here. So it tells me that I can spawn my marker. One more very well, there is one option left for those who want to know the concept, is this function. It's the pure function that I called map position to world. And as you can see, it outputs the vector 2D. So what it does, it actually calculates the position of my pointer in the widget and projects it to the world system coordinate. So what do I do here? I get my widget geometry and divide it by 2. Then I use local to viewport, so I can translate local coordinates of the geometry into the local viewport coordinates. Then by default this actually looks like this, vector 2. I need to split it. And here you can see the logic. I get opening player and get mouse position scaled by DPI, because if I have different resolutions, I need my system to work properly. Then from the results of these computations, I subtract my mouse position. Then, as I showed you, I need to actually change the location, or not the location, change the switch the axis so they will work as intended. So my x-axis should be my vertical and my y-axis should be my horizontal axis. That's because when I move in the game, my forward vector and the position of my map is inversed. So let me show you. As you can see, this one is x, this one is y-axis. So they are like rotated on the 90 degrees. So that's why y computations goes to x. Also x computations are multiplied by -1. So now this particular vector will return something like proper Descartes coordinate system with positive on the right, positive negative on the left, negative positive on the bottom left, and negative negative on the bottom right. Then I need to divide this result on actually the same operation here. So right now my widget returns some sort of normalized but with the negative values system from -1 to 1. And I need to multiply these results to the world size in units. So I have this function from my previous tutorial, and it returns the size of the world in units. If you don't have it, you can just simply calculate it. Basically, if you select your landscape, here you can see that it has resolution 1000 by 1000. It means that it's like 5 500 by 500 on each side, or 1 kilometer. And 1 kilometer is 50,000 units. And I need to divide it by 2, because one part should return like from 0 to 1 and other from 0 to -1. So this is why I need to divide it by 2. The reason why I do this is pretty much simple. If you take a look one more time at how this actually works, I'll do the same widget here as I have it here, and that's why my computations work. Right now my anchor is here. It's on top left corner. Not top left corner, on the center. So if I go like this, it will be the same. But when I go on the previous position, this one is my 0, 0 coordinates. So when I start subtracting mouse position here in this viewport, it will actually work perfectly. So this one will return minus plus. This will return. I actually can just print it because I'm a little bit tired. This system was not so easy to implement, but I actually did it. And let me just check the coordinates that it will return. Now I actually can print it here. I'm not here. Let's go here. So positive, negative, 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 positive, 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 right. So that's how the system works. If you have any questions, you can actually ask me on the Discord or in the questions. I mean, on the commentaries. And now, for those who saw my tutorial on minimap, I'll show you the rest of the logic. So, one more thing to add is that we only need to have x and y axis, and for the trace we use those coordinates, and for the start we get like something high, because our landscape can be scaled with pretty much big numbers, and we also need to go with the negative value, because we can have some holes, some underwater like craters. That's why we need to trace like from the same position but on the negative one to cover the whole height. And now I guess we should start with adding another pin. I have the database of my command marker, Then as you can see here, I have the new texture with the offset, because as you know, my world map and minimap system works as the layer cake. I have physical simple planes that are located at the ground on the very low altitudes, and the difference in the offsets is for that ordering. Next, I also added another enum. It's called market type. By default, it has none, and I have three other options: general, location, and quest. Right now I'm thinking over the future of this feature. So right now it's only three of them, but they can be adjusted. And general is for the markers that are added to the map and they have some sort of basic logic. Location and quest are for the pins that will be added by the world pin system or the quest system. We are done with the market types. Now, as you can see, I have 5 files modified. Let's get quickly over them and I'll show you the differences from the previous tutorial on the world and minimap feature, so you can adjust it in case you have followed it. So the first one is the function update map status, and here there was the node called set visibility, and I changed it to set render opacity for all the edge markers, for those markers that are appearing only when the view size of the minimap isn't enough to show the object that is out of sight. So this one is needed to handle the logic for acquiring the status of minimap, because when I use set visible or set hidden of the widget, it's actually, if it's hidden, it stops corresponding to other events that are triggered to get the status of this marker and every element that are dependent on it. So, for instance, if I have some variables with different statuses and they are connected to this widget, if I select this widget to be hidden, these variables won't show. They will return the invalid status. So I don't need this because this actually breaks my system. So I need to change it to this one. Next, let me see. This one was discussed. This one also. This one also. Let me see. Yep. We are left with 3 more functions. Like this one was already made in the previous tutorial. All we need is to have this function create map edge marker and add a new variable here. It's owner. It's for the common marker actor. This one that actually is for adding the marker on our map. Let me show you how it looks in the scene. It actually projects the image on the plane, and this plane, as I said earlier, is somewhere on the ground. Yep, somewhere here. So also for the widget that is called map edge marker, that's this one, we also need to have exposed owner variable here. For this we need to go to this widget and add also owner here. Variable type should be common marker and instance editable, exposed on spawn, so we can actually provide our variable here to this pin. That is needed to check whether our owner is alive, our common marker. So if we are overlapping it, and by the logic overlapping with the common marker, if it's the location pin, it makes it disappear. The owner should return false or invalid. That is the trigger for the edge marker to be also destroyed. So please do the same. Also, I've added another function. It's called destroy map edge marker. It has hard map edge marker as the variable, and I call it widget to destroy because we need to remove particular edge marker when our common marker is destroyed from the viewport, and because we have the array of all edge markers we have around our minimap, we need to actually remove it from this array, so we will only operate with the proper number of widgets inside our array. Next, this function that I showed you earlier, as you can see, we check the overlap with our common marker. Let's go back to our common marker, and I'll show you what has been changed. I've added marker type here, and the type is enum marker type. By default, marker type is set to be general, so every marker are by default general, and we need to spawn this actor with the marker type of location or quest only in particular time. Also, as you can see, the marker structure here, I also use it to be exposed on spawn, because I don't need to transfer the data table raw and use it to unpack inside like widget or actor. I only need to transfer the correct information. So when the marker is applied, it has its proper texture, sizes, and offset. So that's differences in the variables. Now let me show you what also have been changed. So here, where I have the create marker map edge marker widget, it's the interface call. By default, there was no owner here, and the marker data here was actually the raw handle. Let's go to our interface. Here we need to change the marker data type from the raw data handle to common marker. Also, we need to add the owner, this one. It's common marker blueprint actor. That's the differences in this function call from our command marker here. So for the owner we use self because we are command marker blueprint actor, and marker structure here is what we are actually extracting in the unpack, and that's a proceed function. By default we don't have, we actually, there was no logic, this logic, it's external, there was only like this one, and that's all. But right now when our marker is spawned, we need to use switch on marker type, and depending on the selection we need to go, if it's general, nothing is changed, and we are unpacking like marker data comes from the actually this layout, so we are actually adding our markers on the map on our level and selecting like the proper one from the database. But when it's the location pin or the quest pin, we don't need to have this logic, so we actually have this. The first one is we actually added the box collision here on the same level as the marker plane. Box extent set to be 256 by 256, and the z-axis is 1250, and that is needed. So if the player is like overlapping, that actually like tells us that we will definitely overlap the marker, so it will be destroyed when we are like overlapping it. So that's why I have such big extent on both axes, even if it's underground or it's when we are on at mountains. By default, custom preset is set to collision preset is set to be custom, and generate overlap events is set to be false, because we only need to have it enabled only on the location pin or quest pins market types. And as you can see, it ignores everything except its overlaps spawn and blocks visibility channel. So if it's location pin, we need to select generate overlap events to be true for our box collision, and when we spawn our marker from our map here, you can see that, as I said, marker structure is exposed to be on spawn here. We don't need to unpack it like this, we will have the proper structure already, and it will like work perfectly for everything else here. Next thing is to let me see. Yep, to add two more functions. The one is on begin overlap with our box. I check whether it's the player, and if it's so, I call the event called destroy marker. This simple event is just setting the lifespan on 0.2 seconds. So it means that when I overlap my marker, after 0.2 seconds it will destroy. And that triggers another logic for the map edge marker, for this one. For the marker that is on the edge of the minimap. As I said, it checks whether the owner here, whether it's valid. So if it's so, it destroys the timer and actually calls the event to destroy the edge marker. So with the command marker we are also done. We can close it. Let's go back to the player character interface, and we need to create another event. It's called destroy map edge marker widget, and it should have input of hard map edge marker. Now one more thing to actually end up with this logic here. So one more time, we used cast to the command marker from our sphere trace to see whether we are covering our marker, and if cast succeed, we need to extract and select whether we are overlapping with the location marker type, because we don't need to destroy the marker of the general marker. So if it's so, we call this event destroy marker, which actually fires this one, and the marker is destroyed. If it's not, we use this operation, get data table row, and it's our command marker, and we select which type of data table structure we need to use. It's location here, and that's why we spawn our command marker. Location is set to spawn transform, and the marker structure is going here. Also make sure that marker type here that you are spawning is set to be location, not general, not quest, but location. That's all for the hard map. That's all for our interface, and that's all for our command marker. We are left with two more classes, map edge marker and player controller. So things that have been changed in the edge marker. I've added another timer, set timer by event, and I check whether the owner, this custom event, is valid. So if it's not valid, I should stop my timer from ticking, because it's ticking 0.2 seconds every time, and then I get owning player, and my interface is implemented in the player controller. It returns, or actually it sends the message through the interface to destroy map edge marker widget, and it uses self because we are map edge marker hard. So what actually have been changed here too is also this and this areas inside the update visibility function. By default there was only there wasn't this logic here, was only this condition, but we actually need to check the condition. So when we are holding our tab or another key that is for the triggering mini overworld map, and we are adding another location pin, and if this location pin is out of our sight of the minimap, let me just show you what we'll do without this condition. So only this one. This will actually return this one, that markers are spawning, because we don't know whether we are in the minimap or the world map. So to prevent this, we need to call the function that I also created earlier in the tutorial, which actually tells us that the minimap status is like whether we are showing minimap or the world map. So we need to check if it's minimap and this condition for the showing our edge marker also returns true. So if it's so, we also need to change the opacity of our marker. There was set visibility, and that's actually what ruined my logic, so that's why I use set render opacity. So now if I press and start adding pins, you can see there is no extra pins here. They are on only our minimap, and everything works fine. So this one changed and this one added. And now the last thing is to add some changes to the player controller. So event update map widget here from the player character interface, we see whether the minimap is true or false. If it's true, it means that we are showing our minimap. If it's false, it means that we are showing our world map. So here I use show mouse cursor, like we don't need to see it, and if it's world map we should see it. And I have two different input modes. For the minimap it's game only, for the world map it's game and UI. And here, as I showed you earlier, on the create map edge market widget on the player character interface, we added owner, and on our head map we also added owner here. So we provide this extra pin, and we need to implement the event destroy map marker widget that we added right few minutes ago, this one. We check whether our map widget is okay, and then we use destroy map edge marker but on our HUD map widget, this function that we implemented also earlier. So it removes it from our viewport and removes it from the map edge marker list, from the array of all our edge markers. And that's actually all you need to have to implement the whole pin system. I know it's pretty much hard because this tutorial is like 40 minutes and the previous one is 2 hours and a half, but if you spend this like almost 4 hours, you will have very adjustable, easy and perfectly working world and minimap system with pin system also, and it's very adjustable. I hope you like what you have seen. Please forgive me for such complex stuff right now, what I show you, but complex and different complex stuff with a lot of these operations like pin system, legend, like proper rotation, proper behavior for the edge markers, for the common markers, how they should be shown on the world map and minimap, can be like created with a few clicks. So if you want to support me, you can visit my Patreon page. Right now I will add there the project samples, so you can like If you want to support me, you can have these files with the commentaries, or if you don't want, you can check my tutorials, my videos, and use it as the reference to recreating it step by step yourself. Please subscribe and leave your feedback. Also leave your requests. And see you soon.